African grey parrots are without question the most extraordinary, most intelligent, and most misunderstood pet birds on the entire planet. And if you are watching this video right now, you are about to find out everything you need to know before you bring one home. African grey parrots have been scientifically proven to possess the cognitive ability of a 5-year-old human child. They can count objects, recognize colors, understand abstract concepts, and hold real, meaningful conversations. But here is the truth that most sellers will never tell you before you hand over your money. The African grey parrot is also one of the most emotionally demanding, most sensitive, and most complex creatures you will ever share your home with. Every single year, thousands of African grey parrots end up in rescue centers across the UK because their owners had absolutely no idea what they were truly getting into. And I am making this video so that never happens to you. In this complete beginner guide, I am going to walk you through everything from choosing your bird and setting up the perfect home to feeding, training, healthcare, daily routines, and the legal requirements you absolutely must know. By the time this video ends, you will have more knowledge about African grey parrots than 90% of current owners. And your bird will have the life it truly and completely deserves. African grey parrots are native to the dense equatorial rainforests of Central and West Africa. Countries like the Democratic Republic of Congo, Ghana, Cameroon, and the Ivory Coast are their natural ancient homeland. In the wild, African grey parrots live in massive social flocks of hundreds of birds. They are intensely social animals that spend every hour of their lives surrounded by companions, which is why isolation destroys them in captivity. There are two subspecies of African grey parrot: the Congo African grey, which is larger and most commonly kept, and the smaller, darker Timneh African grey, which many experienced owners actually prefer for its calmer temperament. The Congo African grey features the classic silver grey plumage with a brilliant scarlet red tail and white facial patches. It is the most recognizable parrot in the world, and the one most people picture when they close their eyes and think of an African grey. The African grey parrot's intelligence was demonstrated most famously by scientist Dr. Irene Pepperberg, whose parrot Alex could identify objects, count up to 6, understand same and different, and even appeared to grasp the concept of zero. African grey parrots do not simply copy sounds. They genuinely learn context, associating specific words with specific meanings, and will use language at appropriate moments in ways that consistently astonish even the most experienced owners. With all of that extraordinary intelligence comes extraordinary emotional depth. An African grey parrot experiences boredom, loneliness, grief, jealousy, and pure joy, just as genuinely and as intensely as any human being does. How to choose a healthy African grey parrot. African grey parrot. Choosing where and from whom you buy yours is one of the most important decisions you will ever make. And getting this wrong can lead to years of heartbreak, massive veterinary bills, and profound regret. The best place to buy your African grey parrot is directly from a reputable, experienced hand-rearing breeder. Someone who has raised the bird from a very young chick, socialized it thoroughly, and can provide a complete, verifiable health history. Always insist on seeing the African grey parrot's CITES documentation. African greys are a CITES Appendix 1 protected species, and buying a bird without proper paperwork is both illegal and directly supports wildlife trafficking. When you visit to choose your African grey parrot, spend at least 30 minutes quietly observing the bird before making any decision. A healthy bird tells you everything through its behavior, movement, and physical condition. A healthy African grey parrot should have smooth, complete, well-aligned plumage with absolutely no bare patches, no broken feather shafts, bright, round, fully alert yellow eyes, dry, clean nostrils, and an active, responsive, energetic demeanor. Always insist that any African grey parrot you consider purchasing has been tested by an avian vet for PIBFD, cytosine beak and feather disease, and for psittacosis before you commit to buying. African grey parrot. The cage you choose will be your bird's most intimate living space for every single day of its life. And choosing the wrong cage in terms of size, material, or placement will directly harm your bird's physical and mental health. The absolute minimum acceptable cage size for a single African grey parrot is 90 centimeters wide by 90 centimeters deep by 120 centimeters tall. And I want to be very clear that this is the bare minimum, not the ideal. Choose stainless steel or quality powder-coated steel for your African grey parrot's cage. Never galvanized wire, never zinc, never lead-containing paint. Because heavy metal poisoning from cage materials is a genuine and serious killer. Position your African grey parrot's cage in the most social room in your home. The living room is ideal, because African greys need to feel like fully integrated members of the family flock to maintain genuine psychological well-being. Never place your African grey parrot's cage in the kitchen under any circumstances. Non-stick cookware releases PTFE fumes when overheated that are completely odorless and will kill your African grey within minutes of exposure. Place your African grey parrot's cage against a solid wall on at least one side. Having a solid backing gives your bird a sense of security, because in the wild, African greys always rest with their backs protected from threat. Purchase toys and mental enrichment. Your African grey parrot's cage should contain a minimum of 4 perches at different heights, different diameters, and different textures. Varied perch surfaces, exercise different foot muscles, and are essential for preventing painful foot conditions. African grey parrots are among the most destructive chewers in the parrot world. They need at least 8 to 10 toys in their cage at all times that are rotated every single week to prevent the dangerous boredom that leads to self-destructive behavior. Foraging toys are the single most critical enrichment item you can provide for your African grey parrot. In the wild, your bird would spend up to 6 hours per day foraging for food, and replicating this mental exercise is absolutely essential at home. African grey parrot nutrition is where the majority of owners make their most damaging mistakes. Poor diet is directly and scientifically linked to the majority of serious health problems that dramatically shorten the African grey's lifespan. The foundation of your African grey parrot's diet must be a high-quality formulated pellet. Pellets should make up approximately 50 to 60% of total daily food intake because they provide complete balanced nutrition, unlike seeds. Fresh, dark leafy vegetables should form 20 to 30% of your African grey parrot's daily diet. Dark kale, spinach, rocket, fresh broccoli florets, sliced red peppers, and grated carrot are all outstanding daily choices. African grey parrots have a critically specific need for calcium-low calcium in African greys causes hypocalcemia, which produces seizures, tremors, loss of coordination, and potentially fatal collapse if left untreated. Always provide your African grey parrot with a piece of cuttle bone mounted on the cage bars. It provides constant access to calcium and trace minerals, and your bird will instinctively use it whenever its body requires additional supplementation. The foods you must never give your African grey parrot, under any circumstances, include avocado, chocolate, onion, garlic, alcohol, caffeine, salt, xylitol, and any fruit seed. These are all either acutely toxic or chronically damaging. Cooked grains like brown rice, quinoa, and plain cooked oats are excellent additions to your African grey parrot's evening meal, providing complex carbohydrates and sustained energy that seeds simply cannot offer. African grey parrot. The first 2 to 4 weeks after you bring your bird home are the most critical period of your entire lifelong relationship, and how you handle this settling in time will shape everything that follows between you and your bird. For the first 3 days in its new home, give your African grey parrot complete peace. Let it eat, drink, sleep, observe its new environment, and begin to establish a sense of safety without the added pressure of human interaction. From day 4, begin spending extended quiet time sitting near your African grey parrot's cage. Read, work, talk softly on the phone. So your bird learns that your presence consistently means safety, calm, and nothing frightening. Begin offering your African grey parrot high-value treats through the cage bars. Small almond pieces, walnut halves, or whatever it most loves, presented on a completely flat open palm without any hand movement at all. Never force your African grey parrot to interact before it is genuinely ready. Any attempt to rush, grab, or pressure, your bird will create a fear response that can permanently damage trust and set your relationship back by months. The step-up command is the single most important behavior you will ever teach your African grey parrot. It is the foundation of all future training, all safety handling, and the foundation of your entire relationship going forward. To teach the step up, press your finger gently against your African Grey Parrot's lower chest just above the legs. Say step up in a calm, clear voice. And the moment any foot lifts toward your hand, immediately reward that attempt. African Grey Parrots are acutely sensitive to your emotional state and body language. Always approach training when you are genuinely calm and positive, because your bird reads your internal state with extraordinary accuracy and will mirror it. Target training is one of the most powerful tools you can add to your African Grey Parrot training toolkit. Teaching your bird to touch a small stick with its beak opens up an almost unlimited vocabulary of advanced trained behaviors. Teaching your African Grey Parrot to talk requires absolute consistency and contextual repetition. Always say the same word in the same situation every single time without exception, and your bird will eventually connect that word to its meaning. Recall training. Teaching your African Grey Parrot to fly to you on command begins with simple step-up done at progressively greater distances, and it is one of the most critical safety skills your bird will ever learn. African Grey Parrots typically begin speaking within 3 to 12 months of consistent training. Some learn faster, some learn slower, but every single bird receiving patient, loving, consistent interaction will eventually find its unique voice. Some of the most rewarding moments you will ever experience with your African Grey Parrot are those unexpected moments when it says exactly the right thing at exactly the right time. And these moments will happen regularly once your bird is talking. African Grey Parrot healthcare must begin before your bird even arrives home. Research and identify a qualified avian veterinarian in your area and book your bird's first health check appointment within the very first week of ownership. Your African Grey Parrot's vet must be a qualified avian specialist, not a general small animal vet, because African Grey physiology, metabolism, and disease presentation are profoundly different from cats and dogs in ways that require specialist training. Schedule a comprehensive annual health check for your African Grey Parrot every single year without exception, including a full physical examination, blood panel for organ function, fecal parasitology, and choanal and cloacal swabs. Weigh your African Grey Parrot on a small digital scale every week and record it in a dedicated health journal. A sudden unexplained weight loss of more than 5% of body weight is one of the earliest detectable signs of serious illness. The most important thing to understand about African Grey Parrot illness is this: they are prey animals that instinctively conceal all signs of weakness until they are critically ill, which means visible symptoms are always a medical emergency. Warning sign 1. Any African Grey Parrot sitting hunched up with ruffled feathers, eyes half closed, or unresponsive during normal daytime hours is in serious medical distress and requires an emergency avian vet visit with absolutely no delay. Warning sign 2. Any discharge from the nostrils or eyes, any change in breathing sounds, or any rhythmic tail bobbing with each breath in your African Grey Parrot indicates a serious respiratory emergency requiring same-day veterinary care. Warning sign 3. Any dramatic change in your African Grey Parrot's droppings, including color changes to black or red, watery urates, or excessive liquid, needs veterinary assessment within 24 hours without exception. Warning sign 4. Any African Grey Parrot that suddenly stops eating entirely or dramatically reduces food intake while showing complete disinterest in favorite foods it previously loved requires immediate veterinary assessment. Warning sign 5. Feather plucking or feather destruction, while sometimes behavioral in origin, always requires full veterinary investigation because it can indicate PBFD virus, skin disease, internal parasites, or nutritional deficiency. Warning sign 6. Any seizure, loss of balance, tremors, falling from perches, or neurological symptom in your African Grey Parrot constitutes a life-threatening emergency requiring immediate avian veterinary attention. Call immediately. Go now. Cytosine beak and feather disease, PBFD, is a devastating viral illness causing progressive feather destruction and immune collapse in African Grey Parrots worldwide, which is why pre-purchase testing from a qualified avian vet is non-negotiable. Aspergillosis is a serious fungal respiratory infection extremely common in African Grey Parrots. caused by aspergillus spores from damp environments, moldy food, or poorly cleaned cages, and it progresses rapidly if undetected. African Grey Parrot ownership demands a consistent, structured daily routine. Your bird is a highly intelligent creature of habit, and a predictable daily schedule reduces anxiety, prevents behavioral problems, and dramatically improves overall well-being. Your African Grey Parrot should be uncovered at the same time every morning between 6 and 7 a.m., receive fresh, clean food and water within 30 minutes of waking, and have a minimum of 3 hours of daily out-of-cage time. Out-of-cage time is not optional for your African Grey Parrot. It is a fundamental biological and psychological requirement, and birds that spend all day locked in their cages develop severe behavioral problems and shortened lifespans. Your African Grey Parrot needs 10 to 12 hours of complete uninterrupted darkness every single night. Chronic sleep deprivation in African Greys causes aggression, feather destruction, hormonal disruption, and serious immune system decline.